What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Films by C's. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the 3 most important camera settings that every photographer should know. Now, whether you're a seasoned pro or you're new to photography, these settings will help you take better pictures and create the perfect shot. So grab your camera and let's get started. The first setting we're going to talk about is aperture. Aperture controls the amount of light that enters the camera, and it also controls the depth of field in your images. It's represented by an F number, which ranges from f1.8 to f22, depending on your lens. If you would like a shallow depth of field where your subject is in focus but the background is blurred, then you will use a low F number like f1.8 or f2.8. This is great for portraits and also for isolating your subject from the background. On the other hand, if you would like a large depth of field where everything is in focus, then you would use a high F number like f8 or f11. This is great for landscape photography or for when you just want everything in your scene to be sharp and in focus. It's important to note that aperture also controls the amount of light that enters the camera. The lower your F number, the more light that enters the camera, while the higher your F number, the less light that enters the camera. This is important to keep in mind when filming in low light conditions or while trying to create a certain look in your images. So the second setting we're going to talk about is shutter speed. Shutter speed controls the amount of time that the camera's sensor is exposed to light. It's represented by a fraction of a number like 1/1000th of a second or 1/30th of a second. A faster shutter speed is used to freeze motion and capture sharp images. This is great for sports photography, wildlife photography, or any situation where your subject is moving quickly. For example, if you're filming a soccer game, then you will want to use a faster shutter speed like 1/1000th of a second or faster to freeze the motion and capture sharp images. On the other hand, a slower shutter speed is used for creating motion blur and for capturing movement in your images. This is great for creating a sense of movement or for capturing the flow of a waterfall. For example, if you're photographing a waterfall, then you would want to use a shutter speed of 1/4 of a second or slower to capture the movement of the water and create a beautiful flowing effect. It's important to note that shutter speed also affects the exposure of your image, just like aperture. The faster the shutter speed, the less light that enters the camera. The slower the shutter speed, the more light that enters the camera. This as well is also important to keep in mind when filming in low light conditions or trying to create a certain look for your image. The third and final setting we'll be talking about is ISO. ISO controls the camera's sensitivity to light. It's represented by a number like ISO 100 or ISO 3200. A low ISO like ISO 100 or ISO 200 would be used in bright lighting conditions, while a higher ISO like ISO 1600 or ISO 3200 would be used in low light conditions. This is great for situations where you need to change the camera's sensitivity to light in order to properly expose your image. However, using a high ISO can lead to noisy or grainy images, so it's important to find a balance between that ISO and that shutter speed. If you need to use a higher ISO in low light conditions, then try to use a faster shutter speed to reduce the amount of time that the camera sensor is exposed to light, and it'll help minimize the graininess of your image. It's also important to note that different cameras have different capabilities when it comes to ISO settings, so it's important for you to experiment with your camera to find its limits and understand how it responds to different ISO settings. So there we have it, the 3 most important camera settings: aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. By understanding how these settings work and how they affect your images, you'll be able to create stunning photos that truly capture the moment. Remember, photography is all about experimentation and finding out what works best for you and your subject. So don't be afraid to play around with these settings and try new things. With a little practice and a little patience, you'll be capturing amazing photos in no time. That's it for me today, YouTube. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you stuck around all the way to this point, thank you for watching. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below, and I will get back to you. And don't forget, before you go, hit that like and that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on more photography tips and tutorial videos. As always, peace and love.